I'm Dustin Perry. I'm the founder and CEO of Kingfisher Metals. We are BC Explorer. We've got the largest contiguous project of any junior in the Golden Triangle at 850 square kilometers. For those of you who don't know, Golden Triangle is the most prolific copper gold region in Canada. We've also got one of the highest grade gold mines in Canada in the area with Brucejack, and then the largest undeveloped gold deposit in the world at KSM. So we've put a team together that has past experience in the area with the recent success at GT Gold, coupled with an incredibly strong technical team. We're doing systematic exploration for copper, gold porphyries, and epithermal gold silver deposits. Recently put out some results. So first result of the program that we completed this summer was it included 234 meters of 1% copper equivalent. Also just announced that we've tagged into a new porphyry system. So we're doing a lot of different work, but trying to, create shareholder value through showing the true prospectivity of this large land position in the Golden Triangle.
Right. Okay. And you do have a very large land position in the Golden Triangle. You're also after copper, gold, and gold, silver. So a lot of moving parts. How do you fund this thing?
Yeah. So we did almost $11 million financing in May. We had a lead order from our new somebody who's now chairing our advisory board. So Ashwath Merrick, he was a founding partner of Glencore, currently lead director at Collective Mining down in Colombia. And he was exec chair at GT Gold, which they sold to Newmont in 2021, I believe, for about $465 million.
Okay, so got a bit of money. You also had a conversation.
We got a good following now, and a lot of institutions backing us as well. So it's a pretty tight share structure.
Okay, and obviously we haven't spoken for a while, so you might just want to kind of catch up with the kind of the plan. What's the big idea? Porphyries cost money. They take time. What have you kind of sold your shareholders?
Yeah, so we entered this region in 2023, and the plan from the beginning was to consolidate, highly prospective yet undervalued ground that we believed our technical team could unlock. So we're taking a long-term vision to this. We're tying up ground in Canada, in an area that's seeing a lot of infrastructure, especially the whole Trump critical metal push type thing, tariffs and all that. That's been quite favorable for us because the BC government has put a lot of money into this region. But really, we have a team that knows how to explore this area. We've got new ideas. This is an area that has been generally, one of these kind of regions that does really well in a bull market where the house street promoters can come in and find mineralization easily. We're taking a bit of a step back and looking at it from 30,000 feet and figuring out where the big deposits are hidden, because the big deposits that are at surface have likely been found in the area. So this kind of all comes together in how we've pitched these institutions, in that this is a multi-year play, but we're securing incredibly valuable land surrounded by majors like Teck or Anglo-Teck and Newmont near the highway. We got the right team to do it, and we got the right shareholders backing it. So we're doing this a little different than your average junior that might be going to an old project and re-drilling something. We're taking pretty big swings, so it's high risk, but the reward is tremendous. And as I've alluded to before, when you're exploring, you want a lot of darts to throw at your dartboard, but you also want a lot of bullseyes on that dartboard. So we're doing systematic work to work up targets while, ticking away at them. And we just drilled 7,600 meters while doing a lot of regional work. So, we're doing what we said we're going to do, which is why these groups are backing us. And we're going to continue doing the same thing.
Right. Okay. So we talked about large land package. Can you talk to me about the capital allocation for 2026 in terms of between Williams and Hank? Because one is kind of conceptual and the other has got this kind of bornite rich, grade continuity, etc. So how do you view that allocation?
Yeah. So next year we'll actually step out beyond those two targets. I'd like to continue to take Williams to depth. But I'm incredibly excited about this new target we just announced, the Hank porphyry. That has all the, early stage indications that we're onto a very large deposit. Our team has experience in the KSM belt, Red Chris, Saddle, GT Gold, Galore. So we know what these big systems look like, and what we see at this stage is nothing is detracting from the fact that this looks like a bona fide very large system. So we're definitely going to test that. I'll also test a few other targets further away, such as the Mary area, where there's been good historic intercepts, like over 290 meters of basically 0.5 gram gold from surface and 0.15 copper. So we got a lot to work with, and obviously some groups could get lost in this many targets, so it will be very focused. But the key is, you're looking at your most de-risked targets to start, and you kind of work down that list. And
Right.
the new discovery, or if you want to call it that, technical discovery at the Hank Porphyry, that's ready to be drilled out. Still exploration. It's not like ready to be resource drilled out, but it's ready to see a large number of meters, like say 5,000 to 7,500 meters, systematically figuring out where it is, because we know it's there now.
Okay, and so again, if you're right, and there are kind of multiple porphyries, and you can confirm that, what's the big plan here? Because you mentioned sort of the likes of Tech and Newmont already in the area. If you start JVing us with separate companies on separate porphyries, obviously it might be problematic for the big guys. Maybe, I don't know. What's the end game?
Yeah, so like you could take that type of approach. It's worked well for Amark and the Tutagon. That is at the current time, given that we're in what appears to be, the best bull market of my career. That's not our approach. We have access to capital, and we have had discussions with corporates, and we've flagged that. And you can kind of see some urgency on their faces when you flag the fact that, look, we're in a really hot market right now. We have access to capital. Why would we give away this project so early when we can go fund it? Obviously, if we don't hit it out of the park in the next few years, we might end up in that position. But that's pretty good optionality to have that ability to do that, because all the large companies realize the value and the prospectivity of this ground. There is going to be a deposit somewhere in there statistically. How quickly can we get there? I don't know, but it looks like we're on a pretty good track and trajectory right now, given the success we've had this year already. So the long-term plan, obviously, is to sell this project to a major, and tying up all the ground in a way is forcing the hand of a major that we will be the company they will have to deal with. And there is a big benefit here. Galore Creek and Shaft Creek, which are adjacent to our project, but further into no man's land. They just had a $750 million commitment with this Tech Anglo merger, so that they've committed $750 million towards advancing those projects. But if we find something closer to the road, they're going to want it more, because it's going to improve the economics of their mine versus going all the way into Galore Creek. So it's very strategic where we're located, but it's also strategic in that it's incredibly prospective, as evidenced by the fact that we put the first deep hole under this epithermal system and found porphyry. So I think it's the proof's in the pudding. Like, this is a highly prospective area. It already has good drill intercepts. You just need to do more drilling. And obviously, I can see the investor countering with it's porphyries. You can blow your brains out, but you can also find a porphyry and sell it pretty quickly, like what GT Gold did within 3 years from discovery.
Right. Well, I was talking about that. So I kind of saw you've got a few of the kind of GT Gold alumni on there, along with the Taltan leadership. And, that GT Gold discovery to take out playbook. I'm just wondering what lessons to be learned there. And I also see in your marketing material that you're kind of keen to look at the kind of historic values of, which are, even with current prices, not necessarily cascading down to the benefit of explorers yet. You've got some thoughts about the specific, I know drilling is great, but specifically, are you looking at like geometry, continuity, metallurgical screening, resource thresholds? I mean, what exactly are the de-risking milestones which, drive those multiples that you're looking for?
Well, we're still at the discovery stage, so the key is to make a bona fide large discovery, like what they did at Saddle North for GT Gold. There are some similarities with this new porphyry we've just found. I think you could compare it to the 2017 hole. There's a couple holes GT Gold drilled into the edge of Saddle. Then they went out in 2018 and hit their home run holes, and the value just went up incredibly quickly. So we're still at the stage where you need to prove up something of size, and then you would move towards met and all that. There's nothing to indicate that the metallurgy would be negative here, and we haven't done any studies yet. In terms of the environmental aspects, that's obviously an ongoing thing that we're going to be de-risking. We do have a great relationship with the Taltan, and we recently added, so I guess in around PDAC. So March of this year, we added Paul Grinder to our board, who was formerly the CEO of the Tahltan Nation Development Corp. So, we're doing, at the stage we are doing the appropriate de-risking activities. Once we find something large, assuming we do, obviously we'll move towards met work and that kind of thing, and additional environmental baseline studies. But that's getting a little ahead of us right now. Right now, we need to put our money into drilling to go find the next big deposit in the region.
Okay, and again, without wanting to kind of get ahead of the skis here as well, I mean, you've also indicated potential of SK Creek style VMS prospectivity. Does that kind of dilute the porphyry narrative?
No, which is why we don't talk about it too much. It's a bit of a teaser in a technical presentation we have. It's there because, well, we have the same geology that hosts SK, and the three companies really that hold all that ground would be Skeena, SK Mining, which was, I think, about a $400 million company a few years ago. And then we've got a similar amount of ground that has large geochemical anomalies on it, but just hasn't seen systematic exploration yet. And that is not a focus for us right now. With a larger market cap and a larger budget, maybe we would evaluate that in the future. Right now, we believe the prize in the Golden Triangle is to find a very nice porphyry like a red Crux.
Right.
That's what the majors want, and we've got a lot of the ground that could potentially host that.
Okay. In terms of just kind of getting into the geology, slight technical focus, just so I understand what we've got here. You've observed kind of porphyry style alterations, 500 meters to 1,000 meters, bottoming in copper, but you've kind of got this kind of increasing K-feldspar, magnetite, chalcopyrite, etc. Is this sort of helping you kind of vector in on, well, will it help you vector in on what you're looking for in 2026?
Yeah, so what we drilled, so the amount of copper or in chalcopyrite that we saw in that hole 11, it's what you would expect in the flank of a larger system. And what I'm getting at is that a bigger system will create a bigger halo. Smaller system, it will be, more confined. And you're still in flanking alteration, which in a porphyry is pyrite rich. Pyrite has a stronger chargeability response than chalcopyrite. So geophysics should model a very high chargeability shell around a porphyry. And then it should still be chargeable because chalcopyrite or boronite or the copper rich minerals, they're chargeable also, but it should be basically like a moderate chargeability shell with a halo around it. And the geophysics confirm that. The drilling basically confirms the geophysics. What we're seeing, we're seeing copper in reasonable amounts where we would expect to see copper in reasonable amounts for a large system. So, and it's increasing as we get towards the right geophysics and towards where we believe the center of gravity would be. So we've got a pretty definite vector towards the middle, and then our geophysical layers back that up. So it's not crazy complicated what we see. It's like you get this transition, like it's getting hotter as you go further in. I can't comment on the deeper. I think we could hit mineralization shallower. I think we're just on the edge of something, so you'll need to drill into it again from Ching, I guess, up the hill from that.
Okay, and how, with the kind of the Hank IP model, how does the geometry map to that kind of pyrite shell versus copper sulfide core concept? And I guess any kind of consistency with kind of the Williams IP signatures, for instance.
Yeah, so this target looks quite a bit bigger than Williams. Both have strong chargeability anomalies. Williams appears higher chargeability. So when you're doing this type of survey, IP chargeability, you're doing it on lines. And generally when you're looking for a porphyry, you're doing fairly wide space lines, often 400 meter space lines. And if you've got a body in there that's 200 meters by 200 meters, and you've got strong chargeability on the flanks of it on either line, it might just blend to be one high chargeability feature. Whereas if you've got something a kilometer long and you're doing that line spacing, you might get a bit better definition of it. So it's like the smaller the target, the tighter the spacing would have to be to resolve it perfectly. I don't know if I'm actually making any sense here.
Yeah,
basically what I'm getting at is they look a little different. From a 20,000 foot view, they look
Okay.
similar signatures. They're both chargeability anomalies, which indicates you've got a sulfide system.
Right, because I was looking at Williams, looking at like I think it was hole 4, maybe. You had 550 odd meters at point 0.6, point 0.7, with 230 plus at over 1% copper equivalent. I mean that's a pretty impressive results there. Now, but it's got this kind of bornite, got chalcopyrite core to it. Can you sort of, what are there any conditions that you sort of, like, how are you interpreting the conditions which kind of explain the kind of borite domain there?
It's just the core. It's higher temperature.
Temperature,
so
okay.
It's
Yeah.
core of the system, and if you're seeing that there, you can infer that you might see that when you get into the core of this new Hank porphyry. But the fact of the matter is, not all porphyries, like GT Gold's Saddle project, they never found bornite in it. It still had pretty good copper grades and had very good gold grades, whereas at Redcrest they do have a very large copper core and bornite core. So it's every one of these porphyries, even in the same district, is going to be slightly different. The one common theme we have on the ones in our area is they are very gold rich. And if you find one sitting under a gold epithermal system, you would expect there to be gold in it. So you could still have a very economic porphyry without getting into bornite, but there's no reason to believe that we won't get into that on this new thing. Just where we're at in the system, you wouldn't expect to see it yet. You would expect to see it go into it.
Okay. And I'm saying with Williams, like historically, I think you had a hole which is something like, I don't know, 190, 200 meters or so at like half a percent copper plus 0.5, 0.6 gold in there. So you got a bunch of new data. Is there a kind of working model in progress in terms of for grade thickness continuity versus this kind of discrete high grade shoots?
Yeah, well, that's a work in progress, and we still are waiting on all our assays from this year.
Right.
These generally, if you look at a porphyry, they're not perfect, smooth values because you'll get these intrusions that are coming in and they juice things up around them. So you'll generally get little zones of higher grade within them. In a larger porphyry, though, those zones are probably going to be bigger. So it's I would say it's too early to know exactly that. We'll have to get our assays back and model everything. But looks like there's pretty decent amount of well mineralized rock at Williams, and the key all along has been to find several of these porphyries, and we already have Mary, which has at surface mineralization, and several other targets in this trend, and now this new porphyry. So if you look at the KSM belt, it's a collection of deposits. They're all individually massive deposits, but they've also seen a lot of drilling. So that is always, like, from a creating value and like an investment case here, you need to find something good pretty quickly to reduce your cost of capital so you can drill these things out. That's what it takes for a junior to survive looking for porphyries, or you need, a father named Lucas Lundin or something like that and have unlimited capital to go about these in the Andes. But it's definitely not the easiest thing. A lot of companies are going to fail at this, which is why it's been so important to tie this type of exploration into the big land roll up with, getting all these institutions who are going to be long-term shareholders backing it. It's, it has to work within a type of strategy like we've done.
Yeah, okay. And sorry, Tegan, I'm just trying to understand the logic and the thinking here. I mean, just talking on KSM, now that potential is tied to kind of like a kind of long or multi-kilometer alteration and deep IP anomalies. For things like, if you're getting after the Mary trend, for instance, what do you need to see there before kind of committing to sort of deeper meters, for instance?
Oh, we're ready to put some deep holes into it next year.
Yeah.
We didn't this year because we wanted to do a pretty focused program. It just wasn't how we went about doing this year. Next year, we will definitely drill a couple holes there. And there's a lot that we've learned from this program, including even just from this Lower Hank new porphyry,
right.
Well, it was at the Lower Hank target. Now we're just calling it the Hank porphyry. We've learned a lot from that, and that can actually go into how we test Mary. The key with exploration is, a good exploration team is always reducing their risk of targeting because they learn from each subsequent program they're learning, and they're recalibrating their models, which in theory should increase your odds testing new things, and maybe you won't test certain things from based on what you learn. So yeah, like we're definitely going to test outside of this area, but I would say like if I was to tell you where our best odds lie, I think this new porphyry looks like the real deal to me, and it's not tested. So that's the other thing in exploration. You don't know until you test something, and if it's untested, it might be the best thing. So we need answers.
Okay, and what are the? I mean, obviously done a lot of groundwork, etc. MMT, I think, involved there. How does that and the kind of 3D with geology? How do you kind of use that to constrain sulfide versus clay versus magnetite domains, etc.? I mean, how's that been used?
Yeah, so all these layers are useful, but if you don't have good geological mapping, it's kind of pointless. And surprisingly, that's something that maybe not surprisingly, but exploration companies generally struggle with that. And you'll go to you'll look at a new project and it doesn't even have a proper geological map. Reason for that is it's probably the most rare skill set of geologists, and it's a dying skill set amongst geologists. There's not a lot of good young mappers, and a lot of the older people can't necessarily handle going out and doing this type of work in the mountains. Luckily, we've got some exceptional mappers working for us. So Stephanie Sikora, she's an advisor of ours. She's chief geologist at C3 Metals. She taught the porphyry course at PDAC this year. Did her PhD on Lahire that Newmont now owns. So the last 3 summers, she's been mapping in the Hank Williams area. And then Charlie Gregg, one of our advisors, his son, Dr. Roy Gregg, who's a University of Arizona PhD in geology, he was also mapping with the team. So we need all that data to basically refine our models using all the other data we collected, which included more IP this year, but then the big MMT survey. So it's all used together to figure out, like you said, what is clay, what is sulfide. One survey on its own won't really work. It's always layering these data sets and collecting them in the right order so you don't waste money.
Right. And talk to me about Texas Creek age magmatic systems. That someone sent in a question and going, what are they doing in terms of like age dating and stable isotope programs, etc. to kind of
So where we sit in the Golden Triangle is an area we're at the northern extent of what's called the Texas Creek intrusions.
Right.
Texas Creek intrusions created a lot of different deposits in the Golden Triangle, so they stretched down to Stewart, the Ascot, the Premier Mine, and then Brad and Scotty. Like those would be epithermal systems related to Texas Creek intrusions. KSM Brucejack related to Texas Creek intrusions. This new discovery that Seabridge has at Iskut, same deal. We're in the same rocks. We've done age dating over the last couple of years. We took a lot more dates this year, even further west on the project. We've had the BC Geological Survey on site last year and this year, doing more work on that. So that's coming in. We are seeing, they are at the younger end of Texas Creek, and I have a feeling we might even be heading towards a new name for this area in terms of intrusions. But the BCGS might even be doing that. They might be getting rid of the name Texas Creek and just changing the whole paradigm for the area based on what they're seeing, because they went and age dated a lot of rocks around the Golden Triangle, and I think they're seeing some differences. The key is these intrusions we have a lot of metal in them, and they're clearly fertile, and they haven't been explored as much as other areas to the south. So I don't know, call it Texas Creek, call it whatever you want. They're highly prospective, and we've got a big aerial extent of these intrusions, and they're right near the highway.
Okay, just don't use any of the Hank Williams song titles. That would throw everyone. I'm only getting. Did someone actually come up with Hank Williams, the singer? Is that Hank and Williams? Or am I?
So there's a peak nearby called Hank and Peak, and I think that's where Hank got the name. And then it was definitely Hank Williams. But it's interesting because there's a park north of us, and there's these volcanic cinder cones, and there's a Hank cone and Williams cone, and I've heard there's also an Eve cone because the two guys died in a snowstorm and the wife hiked out by herself and named Eve, so they named it after. So there's I think it's a coincidence that you've got these names around there, but really we work with an indigenous guy, a Tahltan guy named Hankin, and it's Hank and Pete. So There's I don't know. I like the country theme personally. I like it when there. This isn't brand new ground. There's already existing names, so we're not going to rename everything. But I've always liked when you look at. I know Brixton had their Thorn project, and they named things after single malt scotches, and then coffee. I guess that just got acquired from Newmont. That project has the cappuccino espresso zone and whatnot.
It gets lonely at night up in the mountains.
I've also heard of people naming something after their wife, and then they got divorced, and so you don't want to end up in that predicament.
No. I guess we could dive down a little bit more in terms of the exploration, discovery potential, etc. There, but I don't want to lose people in this kind of first pass of this. The potential, as you lay it out, it feels like a big story. For you, what's important for you and your team? You got a bit of money now, and you got a plan for 2026. What precisely would success look like at the end of 2026 for you?
Like a big new discovery. 100%. That's what we're hoping to accomplish next year. I think our odds are pretty good. We're into what looks like could be a discovery at this Lower Hank system. So, I want to see a big porphyry there with good grades, and that will be a big success for us. But there's other ways to create success too, whether we're consolidating more ground, or making a discovery somewhere else. And there's still the huge high-grade gold potential at the surface there that we haven't really evaluated yet. But we will be going at it with some meters next year because we've got all the data sets we need now to target. So,
I wanted to ask you before we go. Dustin, is with GT Gold, obviously their big kind of takeout, nearly $500 million worth of takeout. That hinged on a kind of rapid resource definition, albeit in different times. What do you think that's important for you, or are you going to tread your own path?
Yeah, I do think that's important. If the key is getting onto something big enough that justifies resource drilling. I don't think you ever want to race to put out a resource until you've kind of constrained a deposit. You don't want to destroy, you don't want to bring the clouds in over the blue sky. So it's a balance, but ultimately, yeah, you have to de-risk a project that way. And it will, if you make a big discovery, you put out a resource, it should backstop the valuation. The big key though is the fact that where we are located in this area, it does differentiate us from a lot of these other Golden Triangle projects. Topography, still mountainous, but it's quite different. It's much lower elevation, way lower snowfall, and 12 kilometers off a highway up, relatively simple topography for the Golden Triangle. There's no tunnels. There's, none of that. We don't have salmon rivers passing through the property. Other projects are right on salmon rivers in the area. There's landslides on the salmon rivers below us, so that the salmon are not in this area, and right by the power line and all that. So it does have a lot of these advantages. So not that I want to take away from the opportunity here, but I think the bar, you don't have to find a KSM, because look, KSM hasn't been developed yet. Probably will, the way gold's going now, but you don't need to find something that good to make it very economic where we are, given the location. But the potential does exist for something that large as well. So it's a pretty good location to be exploring. That's why we've focused our efforts closer to the highway. It's lower cost exploration. And that's why we're continuing to do lower cost screening surveys further to the west, where it will be more expensive to explore, so that we're damn sure where we're going to put a drill hole before we do a more expensive program.
Right. Obviously, copper's obviously flavor of the month again, which is good news. Look like hopefully that'll sustain, and price will go on a bit of a run like gold at the moment. No problem raising money, it seems, and these big projects seem quite popular, certainly down in South America. So stay in touch. Stay in touch, because I think you've got something good going on there, and we'd love to hear from you again.
Great. Thanks a lot, Matt.